I understand what you're saying and where you're coming from. As a generator, I'll say we do test for far more than just the 9 parameters. That's part of our discharge permit, that we need to test what's coming into the wastewater treatment plant, what's going out to the river discharge, as well as what's in the biosolids. I'm getting a sign here. We've got a home viewer calling in. Hello?
Yes.
You have a question for one of the guests?
Yes.
We're ready for you, sir.
Okay. People have been sickened, but has anybody died?
I can answer that one.
Has anyone been died that can be proven that it relates to biosolids?
There's 3 cases associated with the death because of sludge. 2 are in Pennsylvania. 1 is Berks County. The largest case was in New Hampshire, Shane Connors, and when his mother was contacted by the sewage industry that they would settle out of court, they put a gag order on her. The other 2 deaths in Pennsylvania was Tony Baham outside of Pittsburgh, 11-year-old boy, and here in Berks County was Daniel Pennock, and I've met with the Pennock family. It's not the problem is, how do you prove something killed your child? Well, all you can do is look at if your family has the same infection that killed these other people. Pennock's actually, by the time they were able to figure out what the problem was for their child, their statute of limitations passed, so they never had their day in court. But just like, as I said earlier, in Love Canal or in Hinckley, California, how many people do you wait to die to say that this is something we should look into? How many cancer clusters do you wait and see till it affects your community? So the 3 deaths associated with sewage sludge, 2 are Pennsylvania and 1 is Berks County.
Michael, I know you've done research and have looked into what's happening and ensuring the safety. Is there anything that actually, from a research side, that addresses the concerns about the health and safety?
There is, and it's interesting. There's I did a quick rundown through Google Scholar. There's about 22,000 articles you can find on biosolids. There's about 400 just on environmental issues alone. And there's been work done by epidemiologists in Virginia. There was just a group study released by legislature in Virginia, and there is no evidence. No one has ever been able to point to any illness, not just death, but any illness that's been associated with biosolids. The deaths that Doree mentioned are all very thoroughly investigated, and they were found not to be related to biosolids. There was no way to correlate those deaths with biosolids in any way. At least in one of the cases, the family refused to cooperate with DEP when they did their investigation. So those deaths are certainly held up by folks who don't think biosolids land application is a good idea, but they don't prove that biosolids, or weren't able to prove that biosolids were a cause. And again, the evidence is that there is no health impacts from biosolids. Many of the things that Doree mentioned are a concern, things like odors. Things like the sense of control the community should have, and I am sympathetic to those concerns, and I think as an industry we have a responsibility to be responsive when those concerns are raised and try to be good neighbors. But in terms of the research and the findings to date, we can't find any evidence that biosolids causes health effects. And just one more thing, if we think about it, we've been applying biosolids for 50 years on hundreds of thousands of acres of land all over the country, and hundreds of thousands of people have been exposed, myself included, my son included, and yet we don't have extensive health impacts occurring. And I think that's the absence of evidence is not necessarily proof, but it certainly is compelling to me.
First, having spent many years in wastewater treatment, I could think of different guys who as they were working with biosolids, they would actually pick it up barehanded. It was back before you saw someone, when you'd be having someone take blood, back before they would even put gloves on your hands. They'd pick it up and they'd try to tell by the texture how well they were performing, what % solids they were getting from equipment, just for the processing side. We kind of joke around, we have some of the healthiest employees because there's really, you go to the smaller facilities where you don't have the sick time available, or should I say it doesn't become like paid time off and additional vacation as it does at some places, and you find very little illness with the employees that are working with the wastewater itself. Dorit also mentioned the concern about pharmaceuticals, and I know that's actually that's something of a pollutant of emerging concern, that there's been a lot more research being done on how we dispose of pharmaceuticals. In Berks County, I know Jane Meeks with the Solid Waste Authority has organized disposal sites. I don't remember how many they've done now, but I do remember that they have been doing that with trying to keep things from going into the landfills, get things back to the manufacturers, to try to keep things from being in the water supply. If it's doesn't come into the water supply, if we can keep it from being, in biosolids and coming out of a treatment plant, I think we've done a real good job with trying to reduce what we're doing.